Hello friends, welcome to Dots of Destiny. Today we are talking about the 11th house, the most dynamic house in our horoscope, and it talks about the desires that we have, that we want to accomplish in this lifetime. And also the 11th house makes us work for all the things that we want, and also it deals with our elder siblings, our wealth, obviously the incoming wealth that we have, the wealth that we can generate, we can accumulate from the groups around us by our work. That is the karma phal of the 10th house, the fruits of the labor that we put in the 10th house. Also it is dealing with like gold, ornaments, all the good things, luxurious things, the promotions you get, or the recognition you get rather. And also if you are destined to get some name and fame in whatever ways in this dasha of the 11th lord, or the antardasha of the 11th lord, to what extent, all these things are dealt by the 11th house. Now the 11th house, most of the planets, they work well in the 11th house. We know that there have been lots spoken about the 11th house. So today I will be taking the topic in a little different approach, how every ascendant looks at the 11th house, because for every ascendant the 11th lord is changing. So what is their desire? How is their desire? How is their networking circle? How the desires are when that lord is situated in different houses, that 11th lord is situated in different houses. So this is what I wanted to discuss today, that whether the desire of the for the Aries ascendant. For the Aries ascendant, the 11th house and the 10th house is ruled by Saturn, because Capricorn and Aquarius respectively takes the 10th and the 11th house. So see, Saturn being the 11th lord, the approach towards 11th house, and Aquarius being the sign in the 11th house, what happens is that Aries people are very focused and goal oriented. Now they have a very dynamic nature. That's what I've seen most of the time. And because Mars is ruler of Aries, they want to do business in their life most of the time. Something that is well created by them, not working for somebody else. So that aptly suits this ascendance, and the 11th house is the fruits of the 10th house result. Now Saturn being the lord of the 11th house, it takes a process, a time, a persistent hard work and a planned work for that person of an Aries ascendant to reach their desired goals, because Saturn is a slow moving planet. The fruits of the 10th house will come slowly, surely, not denied, but yes, it's somewhat delayed, and it takes quite a long span of time, because we have to understand the 11th house is always the long-term goals. It is not the goals that are achieved very easily, because the third house is the goals that are daily goals that we come across everyday life. So 11th house, Saturn being the lord, They work with groups, and Aquarius is it is the 11th house sign, and Rahu is the co-ruler of Aquarius. So what happens is that these people, they want to develop their business, they want to have a networking circle, so that the networking circle helps them in getting the gains better, because more 11th house is about networking. More the networking things, better the incoming gains. That is very important when Aquarius is the 11th house. They maintain a group, they maintain a very dynamic group who also wants to generate that kind of feeling within them, because Saturn and Mars, though some opposition can be there, but usually they are focused and very crude grahas. They are focused, they are not people pleasers, so they focus on their goals. They slowly walk towards their goals, Saturn being the Lord. Now if Saturn is placed on the Lagna, where Saturn actually works well is 3, 6, 10, 11. Now if it is this 11th Lord is on the Lagna, it gets debilitated. Now these persons, if Saturn is on the Lagna, becomes very workaholic, no doubt, because it's the 10th Lord also, but certain problems happen. They become very rigid, very rigid. They cannot change their ways, because Aries is also a rigid sign, and in the sense that with their goals they are very rigid. So they become very stubborn from inside, they don't want to change. And Saturn being debilitated in the Lagna, they get very perplexed that how to get the things going fast, because patience is something which Aries ascendant usually give it a miss most of the time. Obviously it's kind of a Dhana Yoga, the 11th Lord in the first, but in its debilitation, the resources that is required to generate that wealth can be restricted, can be limited, can take time, because Saturn is a time consuming planet. That has to be reminded. Second house, 11th Lord will be better because it's the Taurus sign. Saturn loves the sign, and 11th Lord in the second can generate good wealth. If it is aspected by a benefic like Venus, Jupiter, even better. So that will be good. Third, it will be good. Gemini, Saturn will be good. They have to travel to different places, short distance journeys to gain their wealth. That can happen. Fourth house, Saturn usually will give property, because Cancer is the sign, and if it is in Pushya, Saturn's own nakshatra, even better. But the contentment of the heart is missing, because 11th Lord in the 4th gives all the desires regarding the 4th house. So but the 4th house should be understood as a soft house, so there lies a little bit of problem. Otherwise property wise it can be good, provided the moon and Mars is also situated well in the horoscope. 11th Lord in the 5th, they become very attached, and all the desires comes from the progeny. They want fame and recognition in life. That come a little late, because it is the Leo sign, the opposition of Saturn. But obviously if the 11th Lord is sitting in the 5th, it is aspecting its own house, that is Aquarius. So it's good, not bad, but some opposition, some disturbances, some things may get delayed, or you have to fight for it, that kind of a thing. 6th house Saturn is good. It makes you disciplined, it makes you go for daily jobs, small things, you get it done, because Virgo is a very hand-picked sign, so it's very choosy, picky, detail sign. So that way 11th Lord in 6th is good. In the 7th the sign comes Libra, so Saturn gets exalted, but the problem here is that 11th Lord in the 2nd gives all the desires from the partner. So all the desires come and boils down to the partner. That is the only problem with this arrangement. Otherwise it is a good arrangement for long running marriages and all this. That is good. Even business is also good. When Saturn comes in the 7th position, it is good. 8th position Saturn, problem is that it is the sign of Scorpio. here 11th lord and the 8th can be good with inheritances and all, taxes and all, but the thing is that 8th house is the house of transformation, and also 8th house is such that you have to give away something to get something, that kind of a house. Something goes, then only something comes. So now what extent to it goes and what extent to it comes, that is the problem with the 8th house. It's a very difficult house to diagnose and scrutinize. So not a very good position, I'll say. Okay, it should be dealt with carefully. 11th lord Saturn in the 9th, that is in Sagittarius. Sometimes it can be rough for the father. Fortune can take some late time, or it can take some time to rise. These things can happen, but not bad. But Saturn, what happens, it slows down the fortune. That is the biggest problem with the 11th lord in the 9th when Saturn is concerned. 10th lord, it is good, but Saturn in 10th house also takes a slow and very long time to give the result. Saturn is such a planet, so time and patience is very important wherever Saturn is concerned. 11th lord and 11th, people will be working under you, and you can develop a good business. You can do some organization and building up something on your own from the scratch, and it's a good placement because any crude graha in the 11th house works better. Malefics, they work better in the 11th. That's what I have seen, because benefics, they are easily satisfied. Malefics are not like that. They make you work better for longer time, and that's how it works. 11th lord in the 12th, money should be dealt carefully. It's not a very good placement. Money can go for donations, it can go for sudden expenditures, certain losses can be seen, going to foreign destinations can be seen, and also the elder sibling can go and settle in foreign lands. These things can happen with the 11th lord in the 12th. So this is the thing about the Aries ascendants, about the 11th lord Saturn. Higher and lofty ideas people, when they speak, when the Taurus people, they want to mix with people who have a Jupiterian nature to their characteristics is a little bit Jupiterian. They will not talk always about the business dealings and all these things. As you know, the vibration of Pisces is there in the 11th house. They love to make networks where people think about the big ideas of life. That is what they want. And that is why their gains are, because see, Jupiter is the ruler. Jupiter is a very benevolent planet, and it is a natural benefic. It is not like Saturn, Mars, Rahu, Ketu. And the 11th house originally is the Aquarius house, having the vibration of Rahu and Saturn, because they are the rulers of Aquarius. Now Jupiter here is, if suppose Jupiter is placed in the 11th house, they have friends who are having Jupiterian traits, knowledgeable friends, higher thinking, higher knowledge, all these kind of things. Dreamers, big dreamers, maybe research oriented, staying in seclusion and writing poems or artistic abilities, because Venus also gets exalted in this house. So here these kind of people, Taurus people, if they have Jupiter in the 11th house, mostly all the planets work well in the 11th house. But you know what, with the benefics, the incoming gains are subdued little bit, because see, Jupiter is a very good spoken and people pleasing planet. Kind of what I'm trying to say is that Jupiter will not go for at any measures to get the gains done. It's not a malefic planet, as we can understand. It's not Rahu, it's not Saturn, it's not Mars. It is a guru, and it's a very high level benefic. So the incoming gains can be bit subdued, and they are usually satisfied with that. So that's what I meant to say. Now if the 11th lord Jupiter is in 12th, that is in Aries, They can spend money on philanthropy also. They can help institutions with donations. They can want they can do meditation. They can go to foreign lands for learning and all these things. If Jupiter is in the first house, then they can have some, because Jupiter in the first house, actually the desires will be there, because 11th house is the house of vibration, is having a lot of desires. But on the Lagna, because it's a Taurus sign, and they will have some conflict with it, that whether I am following the right path. They need a guru which will make them understand that what to get and what not to desire and all these things. They need some some kind of a counseling. When Jupiter is there in the first house, sometimes they get a little swayed, what to want, what desires to keep, what to let go. Second house of Jupiter is there because it's a Gemini sign. Second house, okay, 11th lord in Lagna or second house, they do not work bad. It is a kind of a good yoga. If the 11th lord is situated in the first or in the second, money can flow. Though it cannot be too much, but it will be good enough. Desires can be fulfilled. They can have recognition. They can have good family, good food, all these things. If 11th lord is in the third, that is exalted Jupiter, then it's really good. The handwriting will be good, the voice can be good, can be a good communicator, can be a good teacher, can do well in all these areas, can go for journeys. All these things can happen in the third. Fourth house Jupiter, it is in Leo. It gives a lot of attachment to the family, and also they can have nice properties, Jupiterian kind of things. And Leo Jupiter, not bad, though sometimes I have seen that Jupiter not working too good in the fourth house, in Leo. But because it is the original fourth house where it is Cancer and Jupiter gets exalted, it will give its result, having property, having house, having car. All modest gains will be seen, and the heart can be very pure and satisfied, that kind of a thing. Fifth house also, 11th lord is good in the fifth house. So Virgo is not the exact right sign for Jupiter, but from 5th Jupiter will be aspecting the 11th house, so it's a good position. 6th house Jupiter, usually these people can win over enemies, but they have to be diplomatic about it, because it is the Libra sign, and Libra is a sign of diplomacy. So here the Guru takes the position, Jupiter takes the position of a diplomat. I mean, in the sense that to deal with Rogue and Shatru, he has to develop that kind of a nature. 7th house is Scorpio. Okay, Jupiter is good. The desires wants to be fulfilled by the partner. 11th house lord, whenever it is in the 7th house, all the desires needs to be fulfilled by the partner. The partner can be special, can be spiritual, can have a lot of transformation in the life, or can bring transformation in the life of the individual. Okay, Jupiter in the 8th house, though it is an own house, Sagittarius, here Jupiter can give some chronic diseases. That's what I've seen. The knowledge can be good regarding research subject and all this, because 8th house is that kind. Higher knowledge also can be good. 8th house topics can be learned well. The research oriented, astrology oriented, bank oriented, all these can be good, but some problem will be there because it is the 8th lord. For Taurus, Jupiter is the 8th lord. That has to be understood. So it is not only the 8th lord, it's the 11th and the 8th lord. So 11th lord in the 8th, it can give inheritances, but some kind of diseases are seen from here. If 8th lord is so strong in the 8th. 9th, it is in the sign of Capricorn. Jupiter can give Guru over here, because it is the original Kalpurus chart is a Sagittarius sign, but the person has to wait for long. the teacher, the person who can change the life of this person, because 11th lord in 9, he is in search for a higher knowledge. The father can be that kind of a teacher, but the knowledge comes a little late, because Capricorn is actually Satanic sign, does not work very well in the 9th house. So that's why the knowledge come a little later part of the life. In the 10th, it is in Aquarius Jupiter. Only problem is that because Jupiter gets debilitated in the 9th house, it does not work good in the Saturn signs. Here also the professional part, the asking from people, the gains from people, the work done, all will be modest, not to a very high and aggressive extent, because these people cannot speak in that way in front of bosses, dealing with people, profession. They are mild and sophisticated. That's the only little bit, if you call, drawback with Jupiter. So their gains and their professions go in a modest way, not to that aggressive limit of like the malefic planet. So that is what the 11th lord does for the Taurus people. Now I come to the sign of Gemini. Gemini has the 11th lord Mars. Now it's a Mercurian sign, and Mars is very opposite to Mercury. Mercury is all details and very quirky, and Mars is very, all adamant, all dare to go. So 11th lord, the sign of Aries is there in the 11th for Gemini ascendants, and Mars being the lord. Mars usually cannot work in groups. The networking is not very good, and if it's good also, it is just for the benefit, nothing much emotional attached to it, because Mars is a soldier, and the soldier goes on the battlefield to serve by themselves. They do not rely on people. So here Mars wants the gains to be, it wants it for itself, and it cannot, it fails. Mars it fails to work in group environment, because it wants to be the leader all the time. That is the characteristics of Mars. That's why it does very good in the 10th house. It is decisive planet. So 11th house in the 11th can do good for business things and all, and it is aspecting the, if it is in the 11th, Mars is in the 11th, then it is aspecting the second house. But problem is that here, by hook or crook, sometimes Mars can want money and accumulate it, because it has a debilitation, or the resources from where it wants to save, the resources can be little limited, or the speech can be a little problematic. That those kind of things Mars can give in the 11th house. It is sitting in the sign of Aries. As I've said, 11th lord is not good in the 12th. Here it says the Taurus, and Taurus is a very good sign of Venus, in the sense it wants all the good things. So Mars in the 12th house can spend on the things that it wants for its comfort. That is the problem with the 11th lord in 12. Otherwise, the elder sibling can go to foreign lands, can settle down over there. One can go to foreign destinations, spend some money, maybe overspend some money. That can also happen. Once the Lagna, the 11th lord is on the Lagna, that is on the Gemini ascendant, then they become very rigid, because it's a Mercurian sign, and when Mars sits on the Lagna, as it is the 11th lord, and Mars gives a lot of rigidity. There can be a lot of headstrong attitude, because they become very materialistic in this way, and they want the most amount of the gains possible from, because the desire lord is in the first. That is the issue with Mars sometimes, and it may create some problem in the married life, because see, whenever Mars is such a strong planet, the 11th lord also it is, and it becomes very decisive, very stubborn, then going along with the opposite person for a longer period of time can be a little difficult. So here the arrangement can be a little tricky. Second house Mars gets debilitated. That's the problem. So money, if it wants to build up also, can be washed away, because the money management over here may be disturbed in some way or the other. Third house Mars is usually good, and it is the house of Leo. So here the initiatives are more to get the daily gains done and all this. So third house can be some rough, can happen some, but the siblings, some rough patches can happen. But again, because the sign is Leo, it is Mars, one of my Mars, where Mars does good with the sign of Leo, so that's good. Fourth house Mars, obviously because Mars loves making property, it is the Marsian area, cars, property, lands, all this is the Marsian area. So fourth house Mars is good, only some quarrel with the family life can be a little bit bickering can be there. Fifth house Mars, anytime 11th lord and 5th or 5th lord and 11th, it's a good combination. It is the sign is Libra. It's not bad. It is the neutral sign of Mars, and because Mars sitting here will be looking into the 11th house, so the increase of desires for name, fame, and all these things, for status growth and all these things will be very high, and it can be achieved with full gusto. It can be achieved. Sixth house, if Mars is there in the sign of Scorpio, it is some hidden agenda Mars will have to fight with the enemies. How to fight with the enemies? How? Because see, Mars is in its own house now, so it will take all the resources required to fight with Rogrin Shatru. That is the sixth house. This arrangement is not bad because Mars also does good in Upachya houses 3, 6, 10. Usually 3, 6, 10 even better. 11 also good, but 3, 6, 10 Mars really does good, competition and all these things, so it's good. Seventh house, it can be a little bit of problem, though the sign is Sagittarius. Usually Mars do good in Sagittarius, but still it's a kind of some tussle with the partner. First house Mars in Geminis, and because all the desires will be concentrated to the partner, I want everything from my partner, so that kind of a thing can generate some problem in there. Eighth house is, though it gets exalted, but some cuts and surgeries and things with the lower part of the body can be a problem. There can be bickering with the in-laws. Though Mars is exalted, still these properties Mars do give in such a situation. It does happen with Mars being in the 8th house. 8th house Mars is little bit accident prone. That is a problem. Rash driving, and 8th house is some deep desires, very deep desires, and exalted Mars. This is good as well as, I'll not say good, better, but as well as a tricky position to deal with. 9th house in Aquarius, okay, if it is in Dhanishta, it is better, because Dhanishta is a very good nakshatra of Mars. It's a wealthy nakshatra of Mars, and it can give luck through inheritances, and through the father, through the family, fortune rising. Aquarius is a sign like that it's a original 11th house sign in the 9th house, so Mars does good over there. 10th house Mars is usually good, though it is the sign of Pisces, watery sign. Sometimes Mars takes a little bit time to fathom what is happening with the watery signs, because it gets exalted in the earthy sign, but still 10th house is a good position. Now comes the Cancer ascendants. Cancer ascendants, the 11th house is ruled by Venus. It is Taurus, and your Lagna Lord also gets exalted over there. So here what I've seen is that Cancer people, they love people who have a homely touch to their nature, because Taurus is after all the second house sign. So they kind of mix with persons who have, they have that homely feeling they need from their network circles, because Cancerians are a very emotional sign already. So they love that kind of people who value their family traditions. They are little traditional. They love to eat food. They love to cook. They love that kind of a vibe to mix with. Here they can love desire for buying ornaments, and mixing with people and going out in a group, where dining outside, all these things can happen with Cancerian 11th house, because it is the house of Taurus. Now Venus is the 11th lord, and Venus in the 11th lord, if it is situated in the 11th house, will give that kind of things. And also these people love to go out with artistic kind of people, because Taurus also, because Venusian sign, they have that inborn artistic kind of talent within them. So Venus in the 11th house, if that dasha is running or antardasha is running, it's a good time, because here because Lagna Lord also gets exalted in this 11th house. So this 11th Lord in the 11th is a good placement. And if it is aspected by some better planets, suppose the moon aspects it, or Jupiter, or maybe Saturn also it aspects it, then it's even better. 11th Lord in the 12th usually gives a lot of because it is a sign of Gemini. It can give some kind of restlessness. It can with the desires, with spending money and spending on luxury products can be there, because Gemini is a little bit fickle sign. So one must be very careful if the 11th Lord is situated in the 12th for the Cancerian people. If Venus is on the ascendant, then the desires will be very much high, and desires related to all the 11th house good things it will be, or all the Venusian good things, good food, good clothes, good ornaments, good people, relationship, all these things can flare very high, and they will be emotionally very much attached to it. If Venus is in the second house, the 11th Lord, in the Leo sign, then they will put a lot of focus on accumulation of wealth, the looking after the family, lot of value for relationship and all these things, and they will pursue it desperately, that kind of a thing. Venus, if it is in the third house, it is the third house of Virgo. Here Venus gets debilitated, that's the only issue. So day to day desires can be too much of desire, or too much perfection needed on the desire. It should happen in a particular way, that kind of a feeling can come. Though always whenever 11th Lord is situated in the 3 or 7, it is a good way, but sometimes because it gets debilitated over here, Venus, so some issues regarding the siblings can happen. Short distance journeys can be, excess can be spent on that. So daily things, the person can spend something excess, that can happen, because the desires are such that resources are less, and they want to make those desires happen, something like that. So that is the third house. Now the fourth house, Venus in the fourth house gets Digbala strength. It is good. It's good for the home environment, and also it is a sign of Libra there. So it is good in always. It is a Venus Mool Trikon house. A house will be good, very nicely decorated house. It can be nice cars they can buy. All these things. Fourth house Venus is good. Fifth house, if Venus is there in the sign of Scorpio, here some hidden, very lofty, high hidden desires, because the 11th Lord, they want that name, fame, recognition, the progeny, the affairs of that fifth house, the love relationships, all that can be hidden, and they want name, fame. Internal desires will be too much. Some will be satisfied, some maybe not. It is not a bad position, but you know what, whenever Venus or other planets goes into Scorpio, some kind of change it brings. So because the Scorpio is such a sign, any planet going into it will have some kind of transformation. It is the original 8th house. That's the only issue with Scorpio. After Scorpio, if it is in the 6th house, then it is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius, Venus, see, it's a original sign. 6th house Venus, it fails to understand what to do in the 6th house with Rogrin and Shatru. That is a problem with Venus. It is not a very good placement. Venus may try to deal with it, with these things, but it's not a very, because Venus is a very benefic planet. and usually malefics do better in the 6th house. But nonetheless, it'll give its own diplomacy touch to that house, that 6th house, dealing with matters of the 6th house. Then after that it comes into the house of Capricorn. Saturn is the 7th lord and the 8th lord, and the 11th lord situated in the 7th may give lot of desires with the partner. All the desires needs to be fulfilled by the partner, but maybe because it is a Saturnian sign, one must understand. So Venus though a friend of Saturn, but the problem with Venus is that the desires will take with the partner, because the partner can be a little, usually for Cancer ascendant, because 7th house is Capricorn, can be a little dry, not that interesting. So Venus being there can get a little upset in that way, because the desires are related to the 7th house. When Venus is in the 8th house, 11th lord in the 8th house, Venus actually does good in the 8th house, but too much desires into the 8th house, gives lot of problems with 8th house things also, because here hidden desires like affairs and all this, because Venus is a relationship oriented planet, it's a very sexual oriented planet also. So in the 8th house these things can happen with Venus. But as far as getting inheritances and all, that can be a good relationship with in-laws can be good. All these things Venus can promote well. 9th house Venus, here 9th house Venus gets exalted in Pisces. So 9th house here, the relationship with the father will be very nice. With the if there's a teacher, there's a father, long distance journey, higher education, all the desires will be related to the 9th house whenever Venus 11th lord is in the 9th. So those things Venus will promote, because exaltation sign of Venus in the 9th. 10th house Venus is also good only because 11th lord, whenever it goes into the 10th, it's a good position. But only thing is that Venus, Jupiter, these are benefics in the 10th. They have a very they become a little timid, in the sense that the rawness of the malefic planets is required for the 10th house. That is the only problem, because these are a little bit soft planets, Venus, Jupiter, and 10th house is like the the Mount Everest, the peak of the Everest. You cannot be soft and gentle. You need to be a little rough in your ways. So that's how the Cancer ascendant Venus acts in all the 12th house, the 11th lord. Now the Leo ascendants. For the Leo, the 11th lord is Mercury, is a Gemini sign. I have seen Leo ascendants are always very interested with people who are very multi-crafted, because Leo itself is the 5th house, and 5th house is the house of creativity. And actually Mercury and Sun, that's why they go together well, Buddha-Ritta Yoga or whatever, because see, Sun is the 5th house and Mercury is the 3rd, especially the Gemini sign of Mercury. I'm not talking about Virgo. Mercury, the Gemini Mercury is very crafty and very interesting also. So here Leo people always want to mix with those people. They have a different flavor to them, and they are very very crafty, they are very quirky, they are very intelligent, they have their own kind of things going on, and they have an agility to them, because Mercury is that thing, that sweet and salt thing. Mercury is a charming prince. So here the networking circle should be interesting, otherwise that is how the Leo people want to make their networking circle, otherwise they get bored. So Mercury here in the 11th lord, in the 11th house, it works very well. It will give very interesting and very diverse people to mix with for the Leo ascendants. In the 12th house, in the Cancer, Mercury usually does not do very good in the watery sign. So that's a problem. Here the desires gets a little haywire, and what to do, what not to do. They may jump from one project to another. These things can happen. Some unnecessary loss can happen, because foreign travel can happen. But Mercury, because it's debilitated, Mercury gets debilitated in the watery sign. So it is not very favorable in the 12th house. On the Lagna, yeah, it's okay. But see, Mercury is a very small and very, sometimes if it gets combust, what I've seen is that Mercury works very good in Aquarius, and Leo somehow Mercury fails to gauge the thing, because first comes Magha, then Purva Falguni, then Uttar Falguni. It should somehow Leo Mercury gets too much into the brain, and they want to do too much. I mean, kind of jack of all trade it happens, and it gets too much ideas into its head, which ultimately they can burn out with those ideas, that kind of a thing. Otherwise the desires are very high desires they get. They want to enjoy every moment of their life, but they become a little fickle because Mercury is not very good in the first house. They become a little agile and fickle and changing, vacillating type. That is the problem with this 11th lord in the first house. Otherwise it is see, whenever 11th lord is in the first, it can give a good dhana yoga, money can keep flowing in, that kind of a thing. 11th lord in the second, obviously it's very good, because Mercury is in its own exaltation house, in its own house, it is good. Family can be good, can have good speech and all these things. It really adds good to the income. If it's aspected by another benefit, then it is even better. Mercury in the third house of Libra is also good, because a lot of creativity, lot of activities. Libra is the sign of Venus, and all these things Mercury loves doing. Fourth house Scorpio, Mercury is not very good, because Mercury, though Mercury is the only planet which is quite flexible to do good in the 8th house, and Scorpio is the 8th house energy. So but stability at home can be missing, that can be a problem. Or too much money can be, desires can come into the 4th house, and those are hidden desires, and they can create lot of upheaval within the person. 5th house Mercury, 5th house is the house of Sagittarius. This is good. It will be aspecting its 11th house. This is good. 6th house, name, fame can be, recognition can come. 6th house Mercury, it is in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn and Aquarius are better places for Mercury, especially for business and all these things. 6th house, 7th house, daily jobs, scrutinizing things, going into the details of things. 7th house Mercury also, Aquarius Mercury really does well. I've seen whenever Mercury is situated in Aquarius, but here, because it's the 7th lord, 11th lord coming into the 7th, sometimes what happens is that too much desires are linked with the partner. So that creates a trouble whenever too much you are expecting from other person, that kind of a thing. 8th house Mercury gets debilitated, though it is having an aspect on the 2nd house of its own exaltation, but the gains can be subdued. That is there, because the resources can be less and the gains can be little subdued. 9th house Mercury is in Aries. It is always on the go. It wants to travel, lot of desires, and desires are regarding learning, regarding traveling to places, all these things. So here also Mercury, though 9th house Mercury, problem is that the belief system comes late. Mercury is not for it is the 3rd house, original 3rd house. 9th house is a very strong sign of Sagittarius. Here Mercury is quite a feeble planet, to gain that faith, that religious faith comes little late. Otherwise it is good whenever 11th lord is in the 9th, originally born with some kind of fortune and all this. 10th house again Mercury is crafty, because Taurus Mercury is good, and 11th house, 10th and 11th position for 11th lord is good. So all over this is the position for Leo ascendant and its 11th lord Mercury.